Hi, everybody.
Hello.
I'm sorry we had is it me or is it your
I
keys
don't know.
over? But that's it.
That's
We
all
had
right.
a bit of a technical. So what I want you to do before we do anything, there is about a 20-second delay. Can you let us all know that you can hear us? Okay, folks, please. Can you let us know that you can hear us, please? And then we'll do a very quick roll call. So can you confirm that you can hear us? I'm just waiting for a response because there is a delay.
We'll be fine. Let's be honest.
Hello, everyone. Sure, Cahoon, Talgogan. I've just seen Andy and Wellmy playing on the drum. Here you are. Here you babes. Yes, you can hear us. Thank you so much,
Thank
folks.
you.
Right, well, listen, folks. Welcome to Kerry and Stuart's, to Stuart and Kerry's After Dark. We have not done one of these since Natterthon Day.
Natterthon Day.
Christ, that's a long time ago. Natterthon. I'll never forget that as long as I got 12 hours in here. And these have always been very, very popular. So they have. So what we're going to do is we are going to do a very quick roll call, and then we're going to get stuck into it. So let's see who's suited there. YouTube, there's nobody over there. There's one chicken over there, but they'll all come in. Right, don't forget, folks, those in the chatter houses, you must say hello for us to comment. You want to sit in the background, you just stay quiet, and that's the way we work. So, straight through the door is our Samuel Davison, our Sam. Hello, Stuart. Carrie's here too. Jackie McFarland did if one day I should become a singer with a Spanish bum, she's through the door as well. Miss Chatterhouse herself, or our Michelle McGrogan, dear. Matthew McKinley is in. Our Matthew says, hello, everyone, looking forward to this one. Sam says, hi, Jackie. A Basil under the table if you want him.
I don't want to know what's going on
I
there.
don't know what's going on there. Our Phyllis is in. Phyllis, you messaged me. I will get back to you. I was doing stuff when you messaged me. Sure, I see Andy Wellington playing the drummer and whispering halfway. Tuesday, Sophia Goatee is in. Welcome back. Tuesday, nice to see you back, dear. Where are we? Sam saying yes. All right, okay. We can hear you both. Coral Daft is in. Coral, welcome back. We haven't seen you for a while. It's lovely to have you back. You're very, very welcome. Our Coral there. Jackie, your scream. Jackie, how you fellas? Fellas, how you? Jackie and Sam, hello. Carrie, now I have no numbers up there tonight for some reason.
Right.
YouTube is quiet because everybody maybe doesn't know we're back on. And fellas is saying hello, Carrie. Okay, folks. So the reason why these are called After Darks, because even though we are talking about history tonight, our past After Darks have been a bit dark.
Yes.
First of all, the first one was Jack the Ripper. That seems so long ago now. Then there was Dr. Harold Shipman. That was it was unbelievable. But now we're going back in time, and this is quite an interesting but quite dark story as well. And that's why we have to do these things after 9 o'clock. Tuesday says, Sam says, hello, Coral, welcome back. And Tuesday says, wouldn't miss my wee twin for the world.
Oh.
So tonight, folks, we are going to be talking about Anne Boleyn.
Yes.
Tim for life, son. Our Tim's in. Sorry, Tim, we were having technicals, so that's why we had to sign on and sign off, but you're very welcome. So we're going to talk about Anne Boleyn, who some of you might know, some of you might not know, was one of the wives of our Henry, Dirty Henry.
VIII, yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go through stages of Anne's life to that fateful day and how it led up to it. And just hold on to your heart, whatever. Tim shouting, Jackie McFarland's shouting, Tim! So, Carrie, let's go back to the very beginning. So let's go back and talk about, even before all this came around, we'll go back to Anne's background. Our Carrie's in charge, by the way. I just couldn't agree.
He's just so pretty.
Because Carrie is my local historian, as you know. Samuel Davison has come out. We're after 9. We're after 9, so I can say it. He's called him a dirty dick.
well.
Well, right. Okay. Over to you, Kerry. So Anne Boleyn.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the very start. So let's go back to where Anne was younger
Yeah.
and where she came from and whatever. So off you go.
So everybody who has done a certain level of history in school will have heard divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived. That's the rhyme for Henry VIII's wives. Anne Boleyn was wife number 2, so she was beheaded. That's what we're here to talk about tonight. But there's so much of her story, before she was beheaded. So Anne Boleyn was born sometime between 1501 and 1507.
Now, can I just stop you there?
Yes.
But why do you say that? Because it's an interesting one, because nobody really
nobody knows her actual
isn't it?
date. No, nobody knows her actual date of birth, the actual year she was born. At that point, records were kept for the royalty and the very well-off, the nobles, not so much for those lower down the social scale. So you would have, sometimes you'd find in maybe like family Bibles that they've recorded, dates of birth or whatever of people, but it's rare to come across that. So we don't know exactly when Anne was born. We can just sort of surmise from bits and pieces around her life.
It's weird, isn't it?
But she was likely born at either Blickling Hall, which was in Norfolk, or Hever Castle in Kent.
Okay.
They were both family properties, but she was raised at Hever Castle in Kent.
I think that's where our Coral's from, Kent, isn't it? So originally,
so,
yes.
Down that direction. Her mother was Elizabeth Howard, who was part of the very powerful Howard family. They were the Dukes of Norfolk. And her father was Thomas Boleyn, who was actually a son of the Earl of Ormond, who held the Butler lands in Ireland, including Kilkenny Castle. So she does have an Irish connection as well. There were 5 children born of the marriage. 2 died young, and she grew up with her siblings, Mary and George. We don't know what order they were born in.
Okay.
So there's the 3 siblings that grow up together. Anne went at a very young age, maybe 7, maybe 14, because obviously we don't know her birthday, to serve Archduchess Margaret of Austria. And that was at Mechlin, which was in what's now modern day sort of Belgium area. And that was in around 1513 she went.
And who would have sent her there, Kai? Was her father?
So it was her dad,
father would be in charge of that?
Her dad was a diplomat for Henry VIII. So her dad went into Europe and engaged with the different courts around Europe and developed quite a close relationship with Margaret of Austria, and had sort of said, I've got this daughter, and Margaret agreed to take her on. So she went over there, and that was sort of the start of her formal education of training in court.
What age was she roughly have been then, Cara?
Either 7 or 14, depending sort of when she was born.
Isn't it? She's
yeah,
young.
Yeah.
And obviously she wouldn't have a choice no matter, she had to go.
No, you go where your family tell you to go. You do not have the agency for that. But she was educated there, and it was through her father's connections that she ended up there. But in 1514, she was actually moved to the court of France.
Oh.
So Henry VIII's sister, Mary Tudor, had married the King of France, King Louis XII. And Anne was sent to France to serve Mary as queen, to learn how to serve under a queen.
Okay.
Because that was sort of the role that most noble women aspired to, was to serve the queen.
And what sort of things would they have done for the Queen, Carrie?
So they would have done, they would have learned embroidery, they would have learned music, they would have learned religion, they would have engaged in debates amongst the women. They would have done what's like soft politics, where they would have engaged behind the scenes and, played along that kind of way. But it's quite possible, because Anne was fluent in French.
Oh, right, okay.
And obviously English. So it's quite likely that she may have actually been an interpreter.
Oh.
At the French court when she served the next queen, Queen Claude. Because Louis XII died a few months after marrying Mary Tudor.
Well, no.
So he was very old, and
So he was older when he married her,
God,
and
yeah,
then
he
he
was a lot
passed.
older.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
okay.
And the rumor is that he died due to his sexual exertions with his hot young wife.
Lovely. Lovely. I'm sorry, ass. Lovely. I could say something, but I'm not.
No, it's best
No.
not to. So when Louis XII died, his nephew Francis became King Francis I of France, and Francis's wife Claude was then the queen. So Anne stayed behind in France to serve Claude. She stayed in France for about 7 years, and we don't actually know much about this time that she was in France.
Right, okay.
There's a lot of research is ongoing at the minute. I know that there's a historian called Sandra Vasily who is looking into this. And she has done research around a chair that was recently discovered that might have been used by Anne Boleyn during her time in the French court. But she was engaged with a lot of women in the French court who were interested in reformist ideas, which was trying to change the way that the church operated, because obviously Europe was Catholic at that point.
Okay.
So a lot of the ladies that were in the French court, they were interested in more Protestant ideas.
Okay.
The church not having as much power, the church not having as much money, things like that, bit more autonomy for the kings, that they didn't answer to the Pope on certain things. So she was surrounded by those sorts of ideas. So she was like I say, in France for 7 years, and she was then recalled to England in 1521 for a marriage.
So how long was she totally away from England for? She
About
was
8-9
about
years.
8-9 years, and then all of a sudden she had to go back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So she was recalled to England because they were hoping to marry her to her Irish cousin, James Butler. As I said, her daddy, Thomas Boleyn, he was part of the Butler family. So Thomas Boleyn, was trying to claim the earldom of Ormond through right of his mother, who was a butler. But his cousin, who was based in Ireland, held the lands. Thomas was in England. So there was a dispute over who was to be the Earl of Ormond. So they decided the best way to resolve this dispute was to have Thomas's daughter Anne marry the son of the Irish noble, who was James Butler.
Okay.
But those arrangements actually fell through, so Anne did not get to marry her Irish cousin. And instead she was put in the household of Catherine of Aragon, who was the wife of Henry VIII.
So she worked for Catherine of Aragon.
Yeah.
Before the.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Right. Okay. What would she have did for her then, Carrie? Was she
Again,
like
it
a
would have
lady
been
in waiting
a
type thing?
lady
Yeah.
in waiting. So it would have been very similar to her role in France. She would have, supported the Queen. She would have gone on, if the Queen went on progress, she would have been there to be with the Queen and things like that. And obviously, like I say, like she'd have been present at big important events.
Oh.
To kind of bolster the Queen and things like that. So her first recorded appearance at the English court was on the 4th of March 1522, and that was at a court event that was known as the Chateau Vert, which is French for Green Castle, and it was like a play that they put on. Thank you, Tim.
Tim says this is my first After Dark, and I'm happy to be here, Carrie. You're a fountain of knowledge. When Tim's quiet, I'm engaged.
Thank you, Tim. So, in around about a year later, in 1523, Anne became interested in a nobleman called Henry Percy, who was the future 6th Earl of Northumberland.
Oh.
But Henry Percy was already engaged to another woman, and his father refused to break that alliance to allow him to marry Anne.
She liked him, but then obviously
she liked him.
There was already a certain agreement made and whatever, and that wasn't being broken.
Yeah, absolutely.
She was blue out then.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So Henry VIII's chief minister at that time, Cardinal Wolsey, stepped in and separated the couple. But during this time, Anne was befriending people at Henry's court who had those same reformist ideas as the people she was surrounded by in France. So she was progressing that side of her, that religious belief system that she was beginning to hold.
But then again, you know yourself, because she was in that situation, she was meeting a lot of important people
Oh
because
God,
she was
yeah.
around. There was a
Oh
lot of
God, yeah.
influence and all
Yeah,
there. So she
absolutely.
was meeting a lot of big, as I said, big wigs and
Mhm.
stuff.
She would have been surrounded by all the nobles in Henry's court. She would have been surrounded by diplomats from the other courts of Europe, Spain, France, the German states, things like that, the Venetian ambassadors. So there was a lot of ideas coming in to England from all quarters,
Okay.
and Anne was just sort of taking them all on board. So she probably would have met Henry VIII before she went back to his court, because in 1520 Henry went to France to attend the Field of Cloth of Gold, where he met with the French royals, and because Anne was serving Queen Claude, she likely would have met Henry there, but she definitely met him during her service to Catherine of Aragon.
Absolutely.
You know, she's serving his wife. She's
Yeah.
gonna cross paths with him. Now Henry first fell for Anne sometime around 1525 to 1527. Again, we don't have dates for it, but there is a stash of love letters that Henry wrote to Anne that survive.
Can I just say something here? Right. Hi Joe, nice to see you. Right. So obviously Henry at this stage was married to Catherine of Aragon.
Yes.
Right. How would this all go about? The two of them sort of maybe not hooking up, but you know what I mean, sort of being, because it's not an easy situation to be in, because there's a lot of people around, a lot of people officiating and whatever. So, would it just been through conversation, or what do you think?
Possibly, but we do know that those letters were sent, and at some points Anne was back at Hever Castle because some of the letters were sent to Hever.
Yeah.
So Henry didn't form the Protestant religion, Sam. I'm going to argue with you about that. The Protestant religion came from Martin Luther, who was a German monk, in 1517 when he nailed his 99 Theses to the door of the cathedral in Württemberg.
Can you absorb this stuff or so?
I do.
What is it?
Sponge for
but
this.
but but he's entitled. It sounds,
of course, yes. Henry is the one. Henry is the one who did break with the Church of Rome, and that's why he's so well known, and that's why the Protestant Church in England is the Church of England. But we will come to that as part of Anne's story.
Apparently, now, without getting into too much detail, when we are after 9, these letters were
they were dirty.
They were dirty. They were serious. Weren't they?
Yeah,
they were serious.
There's one of the letters where Henry talks about in today's words, really, rather than I wished
Has Carrie got a time machine?
I wished him.
Sam says that's what they were taught, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, this is it. It's because you just get a brief overview of a lot of it.
Yeah.
So
the letters.
So the letters. One of the letters he actually wrote about kissing her pretty boobs. So I mean, for any day and age, that would be that's outrageous. But in those days, that is absolutely insane. And those letters are actually now held in the archives in the Vatican.
The letters?
Mm-hmm. The original letters are held in the archives in the Vatican.
So just it would just be that there, but in those days they were serious words and stuff.
Yeah. So it is likely that Henry.
Sam says we want the dirt.
I have not read the letters. Nobody's gonna let me into the Vatican.
Where do you say the letters are?
In the archives.
Just they'll all be fine over to have a duke over their room to have a duke there.
Just get Pope Leo on the phone.
Get our Pope on there. Right. So after the letters, what happened after the letters?
So it's likely that Henry asked Anne to be his mistress.
What? Why be still being married?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But it looks as if Anne refused that position, and I mean, you would, but. Part of the reason that she might have refused that is because her sister, Mary Boleyn, at one point slept with Henry. Whether they had a full-blown relationship or not, nobody knows.
Hold on a minute. I have to do the volume here. Hold on. So she had Anne's sister
Mary, yeah.
Mary had already had a fling with Henry as well.
Yes.
God, how Henry could get about, couldn't he? That's desperate. God, how Henry wasn't like exactly annoyed, like, was he? Like, we just get us going here. That's desperate, how Henry.
So she refused to become his mistress. And because of that, Henry then started harassing the Pope into divorcing him and Catherine.
Right.
So,
But did Catherine know about this?
No, this was all done behind Catherine's back.
Right,
initially.
Okay, right.
Initially, all these movements were done behind Catherine's back.
Right, God help her.
The Pope wouldn't grant the divorce because at that time, the Pope was actually being held prisoner by Catherine of Aragon's nephew, who was the Holy Roman Emperor.
Right, okay.
So the Pope's not really going to grant a divorce to somebody if it's going to rock the boat with the guy keeping him captive, But what Henry did manage to secure was a piece of documentation from the Pope, which I forgot the name of because I didn't write it down. But basically it said that he could marry somebody that he had already slept with an immediate member of their family, which is how we know that he had an affair with either Anne's mum or Anne's sister.
So it could have been his mum or his sister?
It wasn't the mum by Henry's own admission. He was asked about it, and he was asked, you've been with her mother and her sister, and Henry said, never with the mother. So by Henry's own words, he never slept with her mum, but he didn't deny sleeping with her sister.
I'm going to do a still game. I say, here, Kerry, dish the dirt. People have to know.
The people have to know. My Scottish accent.
That's desperate, so it is. The mother's,
so, yeah.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, so Henry then tried to find another way to end his marriage, and this became known as the King's Great Matter. So there was a group of reformers already within the court who wanted to break away from the Catholic Church and the Pope and give Henry full control of the church in England.
Mm-hmm.
But this would also give Henry access to all the money that went to Rome, which meant Henry could use that in his building projects, in his wars. He didn't have to pay the Pope all the tithes and things like that. So this faction, one of the most prominent members of this faction was Thomas Cromwell, that people might have also heard of. He's a really big character in the Tudor world. And if you've ever seen Wolf Hall, it's Mark Rylance in Wolf Hall.
Right, okay.
So eventually Henry did break from the Church of Rome, and then he declared himself the head of the church in England, not Church of England, because Henry was actually a Catholic to his dying day.
Right.
He just refused to accept the Pope as the head of the church.
Okay.
But he still took part in all the Catholic mass. He crept to the cross at Easter. All the really Catholic things were still part of his church.
Yeah.
So once he broke from the church, he granted the Archbishopric of Canterbury to a reformer called Thomas Cranmer, who was close to Anne Boleyn and her family. I believe he had served as a chaplain to the Boleyn family, so they were known. And Archbishop Cranmer granted the divorce, which meant Henry, in his eyes, was free to marry.
So what about for Catherine in this? Did she not know anything about this until? Why would they just say? Would they just say to the woman, "This is over"?
Whenever Henry first started to look into getting the divorce, they sent a papal curate over from Rome.
Yes.
To convene a court and hear the validity of the marriage. Henry was convinced that the marriage was invalid because Catherine had been his brother's widow.
Right.
And they hadn't had any children, according to him. They had a daughter called Mary, but they had no sons, and obviously sons are the goal to inherit.
Yes.
So Henry thought this meant that, according to a passage in Leviticus, his marriage was invalid.
Okay.
So the papal curate, the legate, came over, held the court, and was like, I'll refer this back to the Pope. And the Pope was obviously dragging his heels about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually that's when Henry lost the plot and was like, no, I'm just going to do this myself. So Catherine was degraded to the position of Dowager Princess of Wales.
Okay.
Because her previous husband had been the Princess of Wales. Dowager just means that your spouse died. And she was sent to live in castles that were further and further away from the court.
To basically get rid of her.
To get rid of her, with
Yeah.
less and less servants around her. So she was basically pushed off into obscurity while Anne Boleyn rose. So in 1533, January of 1533, Anne and Henry married in London. But they may have secretly married at the tail end of 1532 in Calais, because they were over there on a diplomatic mission trying to get the French king to support their marriage. And she was then crowned in Westminster Abbey on the 1st of June 1533, when she was already visibly pregnant with hers and Henry's first child, which went on to become the future Elizabeth I. And she was born in September of that year. So once Elizabeth was born, Henry passed laws to make sure that his children with Anne were legitimate, and that his daughter Mary with Catherine of Aragon became illegitimate.
Okay.
So that meant that Elizabeth took priority over Mary.
Well, because she couldn't get anything then. Yeah.
So that was the Act of Succession and the Act of Supremacy. The Act of Supremacy was making Henry the head of the church. Anybody who denied Henry as the head of the church could be executed under the Act of Supremacy for denying it.
Okay.
So, like I say, that then made his daughter Mary illegitimate. But during this time, Anne protected and promoted those around her with the reform ideas, because that was the way she was leaning. So she was trying to, she set a lot of the groundwork for the Protestant Church of England that came, by promoting these reformers to positions of authority, positions of power, and befriending them, giving them a platform and stuff like that. She wasn't, I wouldn't say she was a Protestant herself, because she still did a lot of the Catholic Mass and things like that. But she believed that the Catholic Church held too much power and too much money.
Okay.
And that money, from monasteries and churches could be better used to help the poor in England, to establish schools, to do charity work. So that was what she was hoping for. Henry just wanted it for Henry, really. So
it wasn't going down very well.
No, so that sort of caused a bit of a rift there, because she was upsetting. Obviously, she upset the traditional Catholics by wanting to do away with a lot of the Catholic bits and pieces. She was upsetting the people who were hardcore into their reform, because she wasn't going far enough. She was upsetting those who were siding with Henry. She wasn't agreeing with Henry. It just made a lot of enemies of her.
I was just about to say, because they wouldn't like it, especially when money and all is concerned, and she's going on about,
And then not only that, but Catherine of Aragon was such a popular queen. So people...
That poor girl was just pushed out. She was shoved out of the way.
Horrendously, absolutely horrendously in all of this. No, Henry did not give a shite.
No, he didn't. He just wanted to get his leg over. I'm not being rude.
Henry just wanted what Henry wanted.
One of these every week, Tim says.
Too much research, Tim.
By the way, Tim, Sam says he's not in the toilet, he's in his bedroom, just to let you know there's an update.
I don't know if that's better or worse.
I don't know. Sorry, Kai. So basically then,
so
that caused a bit of a hoo-ha.
Yes, because the people loved Catherine, and then became a focal point for all their hatred of the changes and the way that Catherine was being treated, because you can't really accuse the king of mistreating his wife.
No.
That is treasonous. So Anne took the flak for an awful lot of that as well. So she then had at least 2 further pregnancies with Henry. There was in summer 1534 and January of 1536. They both ended in either miscarriage or stillbirth, which then led Henry to think, well, maybe this marriage is cursed for some reason as well.
Oh my God.
So
she was wife number
2 of 6.
And there was still 4 more to come. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah. So the last miscarriage that we know she had was in January of 1536, and it happened after Henry VIII fell from his horse. And she blamed it on the shock of being told that he'd fallen off the horse. And he thought, no, she's just not going to give me a son. She's not going to give me the thing she promised me, the thing that I want. And then in around that time, Catherine of Aragon died. So that should have been a time of like good times for Anne.
Yeah, because she
no
was
one to
out. That was her
contest.
gone. That
Yeah.
was yeah.
As awful as that is to say, Anne should have been thinking, great, Catherine's gone. There's nobody to contest that I'm the Queen of England. And she should have been in higher opinion. But because she had that miscarriage, Henry started turning against her. That was, I think, kind of the final straw for him.
Okay. Sam says
So
22 years she was queen, he thinks.
Catherine of Aragon, yeah, 22, 24 years, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
she was actually queen for longer than all of Henry's other wives combined.
Oh,
So because Henry thought that Anne wouldn't give him an heir, he started paying attention and flirting with one of her ladies in waiting.
what?
Are we seeing a pattern here?
There's a pattern here.
There's a pattern
so he
here.
started with
Yes, with the ladies
so here we
in
go
waiting.
again.
So here we go again. So he started flirting with Jane Seymour, whose family were a lot more traditionalist, Catholic, conservative, the polar opposite of everything Anne Boleyn was, and just what Catherine of Aragon had been, you know. So he started flirting with her. He was giving her gifts at one point. There's some reports that at one point she was found sitting on Henry's knee.
Ooh,
Yeah.
it wouldn't go down very well.
Yeah, and Anne went into a bit of a psycho fit over that, which I'm sure, given the stress she was under with having just lost a baby or marriage on the rocks, I don't agree with it, but I can see why she was on edge.
And plus, I would say it wouldn't be a matter of time she's going to get pushed out too.
Yeah,
Or
I mean
worse.
the pattern's there. That he's already met a lady in waiting and pushed her to be the mistress when she didn't accept that, pushed her to be the wife, got rid of the queen. You know, she probably was living in fear that she was going to be pushed out to the side the way Catherine was.
Absolutely.
But Henry started telling the men around him that he believed that his marriage was cursed, that he believed that his marriage was never going to give him a son, that he believed that Anne might have bewitched him to become his queen.
Oh, trying to create witchcraft then as well?
A little bit of that, not so much witchcraft. I think it was more like bewitching, like captivating,
Okay.
you know, that
Right,
kind of thing, rather than actual.
Sam says something here, something about something like Charles III. What would that be about?
Pushing people out, I suppose.
People out, yeah.
Yeah.
Our Sam's very into
He's
it.
very into this. Well done.
Our Sam is here.
So during this time, Anne also argued with a lot of the men around Henry, like Thomas Cromwell. She argued over foreign policies. She argued over like where the money from the dissolution of the monasteries was going to go, because Henry started getting rid of all the monasteries, the monks, and he was diverting the money into his own funding. Anne wanted it to go to charity. Cromwell was obviously the king's man, so he was just going to support whatever Henry told him to do.
He was scooping it all.
He was taking it all for himself. So Anne and Thomas Cromwell clashed over that. But she was also humiliated when she proposed a marriage for her daughter Elizabeth to marry a French prince, and she was rejected. The French wanted Mary instead, Henry's first daughter, who had been declared illegitimate. So that was complete humiliation for her, considering she'd spent so much of her life in France. She had such a close connection with France. I think that must have really, really hurt her.
Absolutely.
So generally, all the things that had attracted Henry to Anne, her intelligence, her charisma, her wit, her charm, her ability to debate and stuff like that. That's great in a woman that you're chasing. You know, that's exciting. But when it's somebody who's supposed to be your queen, who's supposed to be subservient to you, who's supposed to listen to you,
Basically, Kai, she was too smart.
goes down a bit of a lead balloon, doesn't it? Yeah.
There's our Catherine. She forgot about the name. Thanks, Catherine. You're all right, Catherine. We're halfway through. So basically, she was too smart, and she could speak up, and he didn't like it.
Yeah.
And he was scooping the money. She was drawing attention to it. He wasn't happy. She clashed with your man, so things were going up in the air.
Yeah. So Henry ordered an investigation into the validity of this marriage to Anne.
Oh, for God's sake.
And to look at ways to end the marriage.
Here we go again.
Yeah. So it all started then. Obviously, there was work had been going on behind the scenes for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
But on the 30th of April, a servant called Mark Smeaton was arrested. Mark Smeaton was a musician. He was in service at the court and had been in service, like played for Anne Boleyn and stuff like that, in her rooms. At one point, he was in Anne's room. He was playing music, whatever, and then he was in the corner looking a wee bit depressed. And Anne basically said to him, along the lines of, cheer up, you're playing for the Queen, And he was like, oh, no. I just, a look from you is all I need. And she was getting a bit fresh there,
Mm-hmm.
You're a servant, know your place.
Yeah.
You don't speak to me like that. So she told him off, like, you're not a man of high rank. You cannot speak to me like that. But it was reported to Cromwell that this interaction had gone on. So Cromwell was like...
So she accused of having an affair with this musician then, basically?
Yeah.
Then? Yes,
Cromwell was like, well, why is this man speaking to her like that? So this was part of the investigation that was being built against her. So in those days, there was always a tournament on May Day, like a jousting tournament. And that took place on the 1st of May. And during the tournament, Henry suddenly got up and left and took one of his courtiers, one of his men with him, Henry Norris. And Henry Norris was arrested when he left with Henry.
Oh, we drank. You're Flemish.
So...
Hi, Linda. Nice to see you. Sorry, Linda. I haven't seen Linda for a while. You're very welcome, Linda.
So, Henry Norris was accused of sleeping with Anne as well.
Desperate.
This does stem from a conversation that Henry and Anne had Henry Norris, where Henry Norris was in Anne's rooms. He was flirting with some of the ladies. And Anne basically took him to task and was like, you're supposed to be chasing after my cousin.
Mm-hmm.
So why are you flirting around other people? Why are you this, that, and the other? And he was like, oh, no, there's nobody compares to the Queen, sort of thing. And she said to him, the quote is, you look to fill dead men's shoes, which translates to, when the king's dead, you want me.
Mm-hmm.
That was treason under the 1534 Acts. That was treason. To imagine the king's death was treason. To talk about the king's death was treason.
There's no messing about in them days, was there?
No. So Anne went to one of her chaplains and was like, look, I'm a good woman. This just got out of hand. I got carried away. Henry Norris did the same. And they thought that'll be enough to cover our asses on this. But it wasn't, because the conversation had been overheard. So
and also with all the stuff going on in the background, this was an excuse to...
This was evidence to build against her.
Exactly. Yeah.
So on the 2nd of May, Anne Boleyn and her brother George Boleyn were arrested and taken to the Tower of London. Anne was arrested on charges of adultery and incest with her brother.
That's desperate.
And then the following day, on the 3rd of May, Sir Francis Weston and Sir William Brereton were also arrested. They were 2 other men who served the king. They were... Am I boring?
No, Karen, sorry. It's just that you speed up this time of night, Jim. You zoom in. Sorry, folks, didn't mean you on there. So that's desperate.
So that was a further 2 men of
Where
Henry's
did
court.
the incest thing come in, Kerry? What was that about?
Well, I honestly think that it was just added to darken her reputation.
Just to make it work, just
make the
just
slander,
more to the mix.
Yeah,
more
yeah.
to that's desperate.
There was a charge was put against Anne and George that they were found with Anne's tongue in her brother's mouth and George's tongue in Anne's mouth. So I do think it's just slander. Throw mud and see what sticks.
No Judge Judy then.
There were 2 other men were also arrested and imprisoned in the Tower. There was Sir Thomas Wyatt, who was a poet,
yes,
and Sir Richard Page. But they were never actually charged, and they were later released because there was no evidence against them, and both of their families were actually close to Thomas Cromwell, who was leading the investigation into Anne's, alleged indiscretions.
Kerry put Stuart in the stocks. I'm sorry. I just says like oxygen. Apparently, I'm sure we never know. That's desperate. It's absolutely shocking. It's just unbelievable. You know what I mean? So what happened next? This is just as Tim said, there's like dynasty. Stuart needs a Red Bull.
So when Anne was taken to the Tower, people think she was brought in by Traitors' Gate, but she wasn't actually. She would have probably just been brought in through the regular gate that everyone else came in because they arrived by barge. But she became hysterical when she came to the Tower.
Trumped up charges.
Absolutely, Sam. Absolutely. She became hysterical in the Tower, and she was crying to the constable of the Tower, a man named Kingston, saying, like, will I be put in a dungeon? And he said, no, you'll go to the lodgings where you were before your coronation. And she was like, no, this is too good for me. So some of that was used as proof of her, conspiring against Henry. If she's thinking this is too good for her, but she's still calling herself the queen and, things like that. It was all heaped on and heaped on and heaped on. So she had 4 ladies placed with her to serve her in the Tower.
So even though she was put in prison,
yes,
she still had people looking after her.
Yes, because she was still Queen of England.
Still Queen. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she wouldn't have had her usual retinue around her.
Okay.
So there were 4 ladies specifically selected to serve her.
Okay.
And they were all there to spy on her. And they reported back every word that she said to her jailer, who then passed it on to Thomas Cromwell. They reported any letters that she wrote, anything that happened in that room. They were there and they reported it back. Completely spying on her.
Desperate.
So Anne and the 5 men are in the Tower of London while, the charges are being built against them and it's being brought to trial. So on the 12th of May, Francis Weston, William Brereton, Henry Norris, and Mark Smeaton were all tried. Only Mark Smeaton ever pled guilty. The rest of them denied any involvement. They were all accused of treason and adultery with the Queen.
Okay.
Mark Smeaton was the only non-noble who was arrested, and you couldn't torture nobles at that time. Right. So it's quite likely that Mark Smeaton was tortured. And if somebody puts thumb screws on you or puts you on the rack or anything like that and says, tell us you slept with the Queen and we'll make this stop, you're going to say, yeah, absolutely. Slept with her 10 times, make it stop.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the only evidence. That was the only person who said they'd done anything. But can you trust that?
No.
You can't. I mean, I wouldn't trust it. So on the 17th of May, Anne and Henry's marriage was made invalid by the Archbishop of Canterbury, Thomas Cranmer, which meant that Anne was no longer queen.
And Henry was free again.
And Henry was free to marry. Her daughter, Elizabeth, was declared illegitimate and wouldn't have been eligible to claim the throne.
And what happened to her, Kerry, then?
Elizabeth was at her own house in Hatfield. So she had her own house. She had her own people serving her. And even though she was very young, she was only 3-ish when this happened, There's reports that say...
He'll go again. Hang on. She's only 3-year-old. She had her own house?
Yeah.
What? So she was 3-year-old. She was given her own house. She had all these people looking after her in her own house, and she's only 3-year-old.
Yes.
Oh my God.
How the other half
I
live.
guess. 3-year-old. Poor Mark tortured.
Yeah.
Coral said.
So Elizabeth noticed the change in her position, because there's reports that say she was saying to like her governess, you know, the lady who chiefly looked after her, why was I princess yesterday but only Lady Elizabeth today? You know, so she knew something was going on. So also on the 17th of May in 1536.
Tim says, was it a Wendy house? No, it wasn't Sam. Sam, I mean Tim. No.
Sorry. So
sorry.
You're all right. You're all right. I've skipped a date there, so we'll go back to it. On the 15th of May, which was 490 years ago today,
my God.
Anne and her brother stood trial, accused of incest, adultery, and treason.
That's desperate.
During the trial, George was handed a piece of paper and told, "Don't read this out." Now, the other 4 men had already been accused and deemed guilty. They had already been judged. They had already been told that they would be beheaded. So if they're guilty, what hope is there for Anne and George of being innocent? I mean, it was a foregone conclusion that they were also going to be found guilty. So at their trial on the 15th of May, George was handed this paper and told, "Don't be reading it out in court." And George basically must have thought, well, I'm going to die anyway, I might as well read it out. And George was accused of laughing with Anne at the king's clothes, laughing at his poetry, laughing at his songs, how shit they all were, and also of saying the king had neither potency nor vigour. He couldn't get it up, and he couldn't keep it up.
Lovely.
So that's why he was told not to read it out, because you don't want to say those things about the king.
No.
But I guess if you know you're going to be found guilty,
you don't care.
What's the point? So Anne and George, they were found guilty, and the person who was presiding over their trial was actually their uncle, the Duke of Norfolk, the brother of their mum. So on the 17th, like I say, the marriage was declared invalid, and the men were all beheaded on Tower Hill. They were all beheaded with the axe and the block on Tower Hill.
Right, which Carrie, Tim says.
That's
just shows the delay. It just shows the delay. So they were all beheaded.
They were all beheaded.
With an axe.
With the axe.
How about Anne?
So on the 19th of May, 2 days later, Anne was beheaded in the Tower of London with a sword.
But there's a bit of a story behind this, because now let me get my oar in here, because I'm being a smart arse because I know this wee bit. So Henry decided that Anne was not to get the axe. There was a special sword was to come over from France.
Yeah.
Why was this supposed to be less painful or something? Or because I did read somewhere they said this could have been guilt.
It could have been a bit of mercy for Anne, because the sword was cleaner. You know, one single and you're gone. Whereas with the axe, I mean, there were some botched executions in the Tudor times. It took multiple swings of the axe to behead some people if the executioner wasn't skilled, whereas the French swordsman was skilled, so it would have been less painful. Might have been an act of mercy, might have been guilt, because Henry maybe knew she wasn't guilty. Maybe it was to taunt her because she was so affiliated with the French. I don't know.
Well, he didn't really give a toss anyway, because it was allegedly he was doing what when this happened?
Allegedly playing tennis.
Tennis while she was getting her head chopped off, basically. Yeah. That's terrible.
Yeah. So Anne, before her execution, she sent for Kingston, the constable of the Tower, to come and witness her. And she said to him, "I believe the executioner is very good, and I have a little neck."
That's desperate.
And she put her hands around her neck and laughed. And they basically said, that's the sign of a mad person. Like grabbing your neck and laughing, that's a mad person. But I mean, if you think about it, like if you're locked up and you know you're going to die. Maybe it's a bit of gallows humour.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's not giving a...
She was a cut above the rest. That's desperate, Kim.
Maybe
God,
it's not caring anymore.
she doesn't care anymore because she knew what her fate was going to be. She knew that no matter what she said, no matter what she did, it was going to happen. So she just said, "But you know, something just goes the hell with just say
Could be, could well be. So while Kingston was there, she also asked him to witness her receiving the Eucharist and the Mass. And she swore on the Eucharist, which is the bread and wine, that she was innocent of... Yeah, that's right. Sam, 490 years ago on the 19th of May, she was beheaded. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So she swore on the Eucharist that she was innocent. And you have to remember at that time, people were so religious.
Yeah.
People genuinely believed in the word of God. They genuinely believed that, you know,
There she is.
There she is.
Mm-hmm.
One portrait that's supposedly of Anne Boleyn, it wouldn't have been painted in her lifetime, though. No, there's no portraits from her lifetime.
Sorry, I put you off there, Kerry. Go ahead.
So she swore on her life, or on the Holy Eucharist, that she was innocent. And because people were so religious at that time, they wouldn't have lied on their deathbed. They wouldn't risk their soul when they were right on the verge of purgatory and heaven and things like that. You know, they weren't going to condemn themselves. So you kind of have to think that she was telling the truth.
Just telling the truth. He was looking away with somebody else. He was on his eyes and somebody else. He had to get rid of her.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Desperate.
It was all trumped up charges.
Yeah.
Sam said,
yeah.
To get rid of her. She had to go. She wasn't serving her purpose.
And they built the shit up, they built the crap up, they built it more, they made things up, they said about incest, they said about this.
Yeah.
To get her out of there.
So
what happened afterwards
when she was on the scaffold, she gave a speech, as all condemned prisoners do.
Yes, I heard about this.
But she was trying, because obviously her daughter was still alive. Her mum, her dad, her sister were all still alive.
So basically she couldn't rant.
No, she had to protect them.
She had to protect them. Yeah.
She had to protect them. And her final speech was, I have it here if you don't mind me reading it.
Go ahead.
Good Christian people, I am come here to die, for according to the law and by the law, I am judged to die, therefore I will speak nothing against it. So she then praised the king and talked about how he was ever a good and sovereign lord to her and all the people. Because if she said anything negative about the king, her family were going to feel the backlash of it.
And that wee daughter was there too.
Her baby.
Mm-hmm.
And she then ended her speech by saying, if any person will meddle of my cause, I require them to judge the best. Thus I take my leave of this world and you all, and heartily desire you to pray for me. Lord, have mercy on my soul. To God I commend my soul. You know, her final words were a prayer. Her final words were trying to protect the family that she had left behind.
Because if she had ranted, none of the rest. Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
And I do think the way she said about, if anybody required, you know, will meddle of my cause, I require you to judge the best. I think that's her way of saying, if you don't believe this, look into it. Meddle with it. You know, if you want to judge me, look at it. So after Anne was beheaded, there had been no coffin arranged for her body.
No.
So what they did was they found according to legend, an elm chest in the Tower of London that had contained bow staves which came from Ireland, and they put her in that.
And she had connections to Ireland too, hadn't she?
Through the Butler family,
Yeah.
So they put her in that, and they buried her in the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula. So if anybody's ever been to the Tower of London, they might have gone to St. Peter ad Vincula.
Tim's just give you a compliment here.
Oh, has he?
He says, Kerry, you're such a great speaker. Have you ever thought of taking it up professionally?
I could talk the leg off a
stage. Talk the leg of a stage, yeah. So, Kerry, after all this happened, what happened to Henry then shortly after that? What was the sort of the Did he marry your one? Was it Jane
Jane
Seymour,
Seymour, yep.
wasn't it?
11 days after Anne.
11 days.
11
That's desperate.
days. 11 days later, he married his third wife. Now, Jane Seymour did go on to give Henry VIII the son that he wanted, but she died shortly after giving birth to that boy.
Because of the birth? Or was it connected?
Probably, because, I mean, they didn't understand about germs,
No.
cleanliness, things like that. So it is possible that it was caused by what they would have called childbed fever at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But he went on to marry Jane Seymour 11 days after beheading his wife.
Absolutely desperate.
It was the scandal of Europe at the time. You know, people didn't behead queens.
No.
This was not a thing that was done.
Henry did. He did
whatever
he wanted, by the sounds of it, and he got away with it.
And he did it again, because he beheaded his second wife.
Who was that?
His fifth wife, Catherine Howard.
Oh, that's right.
Who was also a first cousin of Anne Boleyn.
She was the first cousin of Anne Boleyn, and he married her too, and then beheaded her too. Desperate. He needed beheaded himself, by the sounds of it.
I have no time for Henry.
So what is your final thoughts, Kerry, on all this?
So after Anne's death, those around her, they did fall from favour. You know, her mum was never back at court. Her sister Mary never returned to working at court. Her brother, or her dad, sorry, he was only brought back for like big state occasions. He was brought back to take part in the christening of Henry's son, and I do think that was him. Obviously, he was an earl, so you kind of had to have him there because of his position. But I do think that was also Henry sort of being a bit of a middle finger at the Boleyn family, like, look what Jane gave me and your daughter couldn't, sort of thing. Like, that must have really hurt him.
Yeah.
You know?
And go ahead.
Elizabeth, obviously, like we say, was declared a bastard and not eligible for the throne. So Elizabeth then was re-legitimised in the 1540s. When Henry was married to his last wife, she was brought back into the line of succession. She was never made an official legitimate daughter, but she was brought back into the line of succession. Elizabeth. Yeah. Which is how she became the future Elizabeth I.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So over the years, there's obviously been lots and lots of myths about Anne Boleyn and things like that. And I do just want to say she was never actually accused of witchcraft. That's
she wasn't.
Really
that was a rumour, was it?
That's just been added.
That was a rumour, Tim, dear.
So that one actually comes from Catholic propagandists during Elizabeth's time, because Elizabeth was Protestant and they wanted to slander her mum as much as they could. So they said that she was a witch. They said she had 6 fingers. They said that she had like warts and goiters, on her throat. All these signs that symbolize an ugly soul. But Elizabeth did take a lot of pride in her mum, because when you look at some of the iconography that Elizabeth used, a lot of it is like her mum's symbols, like the phoenix. That was one of her mum's sort of symbols. She used the falcon as well.
George's wife, Jane Catherine Howard.
George's wife was called Jane Rochford, Jane Boleyn. So obviously she was still alive, and she would have had to continue living at the court, and she served every other queen of Henry's up to Catherine Howard, and then she was beheaded with Catherine Howard.
Desperate.
People do think, just as Coral says that about Jane, people think that Jane Boleyn, Jane Rochford, actually gave evidence against her husband and Anne, but she didn't. There was a lady who gave evidence, but it's never specified that it was Jane. No, she gets a lot of flack for something that she maybe didn't do, And like I say, Mark Smeaton's the only person who confessed to anything.
He confessed.
But he was probably tortured.
Desperate.
So if you look into the accusations against Anne and the 5 men who died with her, you can immediately discount around 75% of them. Because the indictments would have said things like Anne and George were at Hampton Court, but that's not true because maybe Anne was at Whitehall. So they weren't actually in the same place at the same
Stop
time.
made up.
It was
all to get rid of her.
Up. It was just to get rid of her.
It's desperate.
So when we come forward in time into the Victorian period, the St. Peter Avicula, the chapel, it needed work done to it because the floor had started to subside. Obviously, just with centuries upon centuries of burials. And they believe that they found Anne Boleyn's skeleton during those renovations.
Oh, right.
It was buried.
And when was this?
In the Victorian era.
Victorian era, right? Okay.
Under Queen Victoria. So the skeleton was found in the place where they expected Anne Boleyn's skeleton to be.
Sam's asked a question, but I'll let you finish.
Okay. And that skeleton was reburied with honour. And it now lies under a tile on the chapel floor, which bears Anne's name.
Sam says, was it Catherine Parr who lived after Henry died?
Yes.
What happened to Henry in the end, Carrie? So I this is not on schedule, but it's just, I don't know because I've seen me in history. I'm desperate. So what actually happened to him in the end?
Henry died in 1547, so only 11 years after he executed Anne.
Oh, he died 11 years after that?
Yeah. So he didn't have... That's what I was saying at the start about Catherine of Aragon. She was queen for so long. Like the other 5 wives were over the space of 15 years, 14 years. So Henry
basically
died.
Through him flirting.
Yeah.
Wanting to get his crude turd, getting his leg over and whatever, and people had to suffer because of it.
Yeah.
And he had people on his side doing dirty deeds, making things up so he could do what he wanted to do. And also as well take money and whatever.
And the thing is, see, when people outlive their usefulness to Henry got rid of them. One of his first early chief ministers, Cardinal Wolsey, the one that we talked about, who separated Anne and Henry Percy, when he was no longer useful to Henry banished him to York and then called him back. And on the way back, Wolsey died. But it was very likely that Wolsey was heading back to London to be arrested. When Thomas Cromwell, who took over after that, when he outlived his usefulness to Henry because the Protestant alliance that he had set up fell through with Anne of Cleves, he was executed, he was beheaded. You know, when people weren't useful to Henry anymore, Henry got rid of them in the most brutal way.
You've been here, I've used you, you've got whatever, you don't used to me anymore, goodbye.
Pretty much, yeah.
Terrible.
So he died. I see that Sam has said he died of an STI. That is a common rumour. That is a common thing that people think they know about Henry VIII, that he had syphilis. But at that time, the treatment for syphilis was mercury.
Okay.
Henry's medical records exist almost intact, and there's no record of them ever being treated with mercury for syphilis.
So what do you use for syphilis? Mercury?
They use mercury, yeah. Okay. Yeah. But he did die. It was basically just he had gotten so overweight. He had gout. He probably had diabetes because of the weight that he was carrying and things like that. And it was just the complications of all of that he died from.
Sam's made a suggestion for another After Dark. He says next one, he said maybe because you do Lady Jane Grey, 10
Days Queen. I love her.
Yeah.
I love her.
Do you know what I'd be interested in maybe covering as well? I know it is a famous one, but it's not as the Richard III story and the Two Princes.
Oh my God, I could go on for hours.
That's that one that I'd like to do.
I love the Princes in the Tower.
And there's a couple of modern things I'd like to cover on After Dark, have a look at as well, and the serial killer side again, because they're very popular too. So is there anything else you want to add? Is that you, finito?
I think that's probably... Oh, yes, the other thing that Henry had that he died from, an ulcer in his leg, ulcerated leg.
You don't, right? So. Well, Kerry, thank you so much. Honestly, I think you must absorb dictionaries and absorb history books and whatever. Only joking, Kerry. Tuesday says he was heading back to London to be arrested and died en route. Was that a compassionate intervention or did he take his own life?
Probably natural causes.
Natural cause?
Probably natural causes. He was a cardinal. And it was a mortal sin to take your own life by the Catholic Church.
Absolutely.
So he wouldn't have risked that with him being so high up in the church. And I don't think anyone would have had the guts to
Nobody would say
murder a cardinal.
or say anything to Henry because they'll
No,
scared
God no,
shitless
God
of
no.
him.
I mean, if you said anything to him, were you next on the block?
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely,
it was
absolutely.
an absolutely terrifying time, I'm sure, to be alive. But
Mhm.
it's also fascinating. Coral, I can talk for
24-hour
24
natter house. Well, I tell you something, Carl, after we did the 12 hours that day, it was desperate. It's hard to believe that was a year ago last March we did one of these.
Yeah.
That was the last time. No, folks, it's just when Kerry does it, it takes a lot of research and stuff. And also we had bereavements in our family. Both of us had bereavements in our families last year. So that's why we haven't had a chance to do one, but we will be doing a few more. As I say, a couple more history ones, and I'd like to do maybe some of the more modern of the serial killers. And there's one that I'm going to talk to you about after we're finished. So I'm not going to say it on camera because it's one I really am interested in.
Okay.
So many more questions on this. I'll see you on WhatsApp after.
I will send you links Tuesday to all of the podcasts that I listen to, where all of my information comes from. I can lend you a
I think it's
books.
sitting digestible, okay?
I
really do.
I'm the sort of person, because I'm not actually a historian. I'm not a trained historian.
I just call you that.
I know you do. I just love history. So everything that I've learned is through podcasts, documentaries, and just reading books.
Tim says, what a brilliant night. You enjoyed to listen to, Kerry.
Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, listen, folks, thanks very much for joining Kerry and myself. Kerry, thank you again.
Thank you.
Just to remind everybody, I'm not here next Tuesday. Mademoiselle Lillian is taking over. And look, so what's happening next Tuesday night at 7:30? It's the Auntie Lillian and Lucky Boys Tuesday night trivia quiz. If anybody doesn't know, Lillian will be beaming in from probably my house, but Luke will be beaming in from Gibraltar. Luke is a friend of Auntie Lillian's. He actually lives in Gibraltar, so we're going to be doing like a European sort of interchanging quiz. Beaming live. It's going to be like the Eurovision Song Contest. I can't wait tomorrow night to see that. I love that. Coral says, please, can you send some links, Cara?
Yeah.
Tuesday says, you are a historian. You're brilliant. You're so articulate.
I'm not a historian. I didn't even do history for GCSE. This is just stuff that I've all took on.
It's just something you enjoy. It's something you enjoy doing, you know.
And Anne Boleyn was the first sort of historical character that I really became interested in. As ridiculous as that sounds.
Tim, Lucky boy.
Lucky boy.
I'm just going to share something else with you folks that we have got coming up in maybe in a couple of weeks. I'll not be next Tuesday because of the quiz. It could be the following Tuesday. There is a girl called Claire that is coming to the group. It has been confirmed, so I am allowed to say it. He said, I can't hold me on water. But this girl is she is a trained past life regression therapist. And I thought I would bring that in because we are talking about history. And basically what past life regression therapy is, they take you back to see who you were in your previous lives or whatever. Because a lot of people believe in reincarnation and whatever. And this girl takes you back to regress to see who you were in history. It's going to be fascinating.
It is going to be amazing.
It's going to be a fascinating, I can't even speak, fascinating night. Have you seen Six the musical, Kerry?
Yes, twice in the Opera House. It's amazing. Anybody who has not seen Six, go see Six. If you liked my talk about Anne Boleyn, go see Six.
So there you go, folks. So that's coming up in a couple of weeks. We've got Claire, who is a past life regression therapist.
Get that out. It's
going to be fascinating.
Yeah.
Tim says, good night, everyone, and good night, Carrie and Stuart. Lovely to put a face to your name, Carrie.
Thank you.
And that's us up to date. But look, folks, once again, we do apologise about the technical glitch. It was my fault, I think. But we got it done anyway. Yeah. Thanks for joining us tonight, folks. Sorry for keeping us up late. Hope you're all sitting there in your jammies and all on. And we'll see. Hold on, I just get this up before I actually go off here. We will see you all very, very